Welcome to the Apprehensively Vulnerable podcast. I feel like it's been so long since I said those words, and honestly, today it's been a journey to get here. Um, Having short hair, like, also, if my hair is not styled in the way that I want it to be styled, I don't really want to go outside. And being that it's a Monday and I have classes, I have things that I need to do, which involve me leaving my safe space, which, if you know, you know, it's not a safe space. But I have to do things that involve me leaving the house, and I know that I need a haircut. That's the problem. I'm at this very awkward stage in my big chop, the aftermath of the big chop, and it's like, okay, do I start my locks now or do I keep cutting it and keep it short? And I honestly just cannot see myself. I can't see myself starting my locks right now. Like, I want me starting my next and third time's a charm. I want my next and third set of locks to be started in a time where I can look back and be like, oh yeah, like I remember when I was at the 2 month mark and I was at the 3 month mark. Like, I want to have positive associations with the start of my lock journey. And I feel like because I started my second set. Well, first of all, I started my second set literally on January 1st, 2022. On January 2nd of 2022, that's when all of the drama, um, let me not call it drama because it's not drama, the mistreatment in my living situation started. So I started my locks on January 1st, and on January 2nd, that is when the mistreatment started. So I kind of associate my locks, my second set of locks, with like just lack of boundaries and just like very negative experiences and just overall not the best time in my life. So yeah, I don't want to start my third set with that energy. But figuring out what to do with my hair in the meantime has been the ultimate struggle. Yeah, it's been the ultimate struggle. Um I have a hair appointment in less than 2 weeks and I'm getting my hair colored, and I still don't really know quite how to describe the color that I want, because in I want something in the burgundy family, but with brown undertones, because I don't want it to give off red. Like, that's not what I'm going for. Like, if I say auburn, because auburn is a color that I really, really wanted back when I was like 16, and my mom would not let me dye my hair for anything. She was like, and I was like, Mom, out of all the colors I could be asking to dye my hair, I'm asking you for a brown. And she was just like, no. But I guess she was looking out for me because I probably wasn't taking the best care of my hair. Like, everything that comes along with dyeing your hair, you just have to be extra considerate and aware of your colored hair. So, I don't know. She also is like, she was good about, trying to make sure we didn't grow up too fast. She was like, listen, you're only going to be a child for X amount of years. When you're an adult, then you can do whatever you want to your hair. So I say all that to say that was a very, very long rant in a way to say that I'm really not feeling the way my hair is looking. So I feel like I'm not looking at myself. Honestly, this this is better. This is honestly better, but yeah, I don't really know what to say about it. All I can do is wait until my appointment and fix it to something that I'm actually comfortable with, cuz it's just the shape of my head, like the way that my hair is. I feel like I'm going on a rant. The shape of my head, whatever haircut that I have has to complement the shape of my head. And what I will say is that right now, the way that my hair is grown out, which I try to explain to people, my sides were shorter. When I got my hair cut back in August, my sides were shorter than what they are now. So now that my hair is growing out, I feel like it's messing with, it's like an optical illusion. Like it's messing with the way that my head looks because my hair is uneven. Okay? I feel like 6 minutes of talking about my insecurities and hair frustration is enough. But I'm in a location that looks a little professional. You can actually see me. In the past, for recording my podcast, I would usually reserve a private room and just record it that way, but I didn't have an additional device to record my face on, so it was kind of like I was forced to give you all just audio. Um but I found a place and I don't have to pay any additional fees. So I am making the most of the resources that I have been given. I will say I probably won't reserve this particular booth again because it's too dark in here. Like the only thing, look, let me show y'all. The only way you're able to see me is because I turned the brightness up on the computer all the way. If that wasn't on, I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe this is the vibe. All of the people that record music, you like to be in a very dim room. Let me not hate, but for a podcast, you kind of need to see the person. But anyway, what I'm gonna do is roll out my. I have like 4 to 5 episodes that I haven't released. So you guys might not be seeing this video until November, which is okay because I'll be so freaking busy in November. So just to have this already uploaded, I think that's a vibe because it's going to be kind of awkward if I release one podcast with audio and video and then I go back to just the audio. So, oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, you probably won't be listening to this until November. But one of the cons of reserving these rooms is that they have settings on all of the Mac computers to where you can't use certain functions on the computer because people are dumb. And I don't know why college students, some people have some growing to do, and some people have some maturing to do. So, example of why it's so problematic. So, I spent over an hour typing up my notes for one of my classes. And then after I typed it up on the notes app on the Mac computer. And I'm like, okay, bet this is a good way to take my notes because I prefer taking my notes in the notes app because if I want to search a particular word, then it'll pop up instead of with regular like typing your notes into any other thing. I don't know any other platform where you can like search a keyword and then the word that you're trying to look for will pop up easily. So I spent almost an hour typing up my notes and then I couldn't figure out how to get the notes back to me other than copy and pasting them into an email. And I just feel like you shouldn't have to do all of that. So this whole time, I'm thinking, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna get these notes. I don't know how I'm gonna get these notes. I'm trying to airdrop myself the notes. So I keep checking the settings on the computer. I'm glad I didn't turn the computer off again and lose all my progress because That would have been a mess. But I looked on the computer. I'm trying to figure out the airdrop settings. Nothing is working. And then I realized that airdrop is disabled on the computer. So I couldn't get my notes to my phone and I couldn't get my notes to my iPad. The way that I had to get my notes was copying and pasting the notes into an email and then emailing the notes to myself. All because they had to disable the airdrop function because I know that it probably wasn't disabled before and somebody abused the freedom and the ability to use the airdrop function, and now I had to go through all of these avenues to get my work. So that's a long way of saying I have limited functions on these computers, and I thought that I was going to be able to record a longer podcast because I was going to get the Anchor app on this MacBook, and then I'm allowed to record for up to an hour. But I tried to go in the App Store and it said you do not have the ability to access the App Store. So, when you're recording a podcast through Anchor, um you only have 30 minutes if you're recording through the browser. So, I'm at 11 minutes and I have 19 minutes left. So, if I continue to record the podcast in this way, just a mental note for you all and for me, if I touch this freaking, and it's on accident too. But yeah, the episodes are going to be 30 minutes, which it's good for me because the video files won't be as large, but sometimes the topics need longer. But it wouldn't be anything for me to just stop and like keep recording. But then again, I don't want an hour worth of podcast footage on my phone. So I don't know if I need to invest in another phone. I might invest, you know what? I might turn this phone into my recording and like my business page phone so I can just keep stuff on here, and then maybe I'll buy myself a new phone. I don't know. I'll think about that. But let's get into the topic of today because I have been feeling a certain type of way about doctors. I've never really messed with doctors like that, and I've never really messed with hospitals like that. I only like to go to the hospital if I have like no idea what's going on. And even in those situations where I have no idea what's going on, I'm still fearful of going to the hospital and leaving without answers. So, growing up, I did not like medicine. I've always been a person that was natural remedies first. I don't want all these crazy chemicals in my body. I don't know what they be doing. So my mom would be like, "Oh, Christian, do you want some medicine?" And I'd be like, "No, I'll just drink some tea. I'll just drink some tea with some lemon and some honey in it, and I'll see if it gets better." Because I'm really not a fan of I'm not a fan of slapping medication on stuff. I'm not a fan of just medicine in general, and I don't really mess with doctors. So let's rewind to 2021. So I don't remember what month it was. I think it was. I'm not even going to speculate on what month it was. I believe it was between September and December. After a night of eating a bunch of food, I don't know what was going on with my appetite this day, but it was probably after Thanksgiving. But I don't know what was going on after Thanksgiving. My appetite just shot up randomly. And so I was just eating. So there's one particular day after I finished eating, I felt this restriction to my airways in my throat. And it felt like my airways were just cut off. And I didn't know what was going on because when I'm having a sports induced asthma attack, I know why I'm having asthma issues because I just danced a 20-minute piece or I just ran on the treadmill for 15 minutes. Like, it's reasonable for you to be out of breath when you're doing things that are very active. And so after eating, when I felt my airways closing up, I was like, that's strange. I don't really know why I'm having this reaction when I haven't done any type of physical activity to make me feel like, oh, okay, like that makes sense why you'd be out of breath. So I try to just lay down and sleep it off. Excuse me. And I kept not wanting to go to sleep because I felt like my heart might stop during my sleep. And so it was very hard for me to sleep that night. And this was on a Saturday. So Saturday happened, Sunday happened, and then Monday came. So, one thing about me, I really don't like having poor attendance in my classes. Like, I will come to class when I am sick. And it's worse now that I'm in college because you only have 2 excused absences in most classes. In some classes that only meet once a week, you can only have 1 excused absence. So when it comes to me not feeling well, I'm gonna still go to class, tough it out, because I don't want to give up my 2 excused absences when I can push through. So I walked to my first class, and the shortness of breath was getting so bad. Like, as I was walking to my class, it seemed like exercise was making it worse. So I got to my first class, I toughed it out, and then I emailed all of my professors for the rest of the day and said, "Hi, I'm having shortness of breath. I'm going to go to urgent care, and just to let you know, I'm not going to be in your class today." So I emailed all my professors, got that out the way. And then I started looking for urgent cares. So I'm looking for urgent cares all over the city. I find one. I get there and they're like, "Oh, we only do C19 tests." And I'm like, why is that not boldly on the website? Because I just wasted all this Uber money. I just wasted all this Uber money to come all the way over here for you to tell me you only do C19 tests. Like, I need to be reimbursed. So after that, I call my mom and she's like, "Okay, go to this one." So I go to the next urgent care and there's people in line. So I think they told me something like, "Oh, it's going to be about a 45-minute wait." And at that point, I'm like, I can't wait that long. So then I go to a hospital. And when I Uber to the hospital, it's even worse of a line. But this was the emergency room. I'm like, what the frick is going on here? So I end up going back to the second urgent care. And I waited whatever 45 minutes it was. They called me back. I gave them a urine sample, and then the doctor, white, male, white, male. The doctor comes in and starts asking me all these questions, and I'm answering the questions. So I told him that it just feels like, my airways are being cut off. And then he takes the stethoscope and he listens to my lungs and he, pulls my shirt up. He's using a little circular thing, pushing it up against whatever. And he's like, "Okay, well, oh, and I also mentioned that I was having like lower back pain. And after, he did his investigative questioning, because he says, "I don't feel comfortable treating you because your lungs sound fine and I don't see anything physically wrong with you." So imagine how I'm feeling after dealing with feeling like my airways are closing up, to then you checking me out and saying, nothing's wrong. Well, take some ibuprofen for your back pain. So at this point, I'm very emotional. I get home, and at the time, my roommate and I, we hadn't fallen out yet. So I come home and I'm very emotional, and she's like, "Do you know what's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. At this point, I just want to make sure that it's not cancer." And to be honest, I had gotten to the point where I was like, it might be, because I had watched so many videos where people were like, I kept going to doctors, I kept going to doctors, and all of the doctors were dismissing me, and I ended up having cancer. And one of the nights where I was very, very scared about my symptoms, I woke up and I peed 30 times. I was waking up to go to the bathroom like every 15 minutes just to urinate. So imagine peeing 30 times. You have shortness of breath in your throat. You have lower back pain, and you just feel like you can't breathe, and you don't want to go to sleep at night because you're scared that you won't wake up. And then you go to the doctor and they're saying, I don't see anything and I don't hear anything, so you're fine. So I kept talking to my mom about it, and I'm like, Mom, something is wrong. Like, I know that these doctors keep saying that nothing's wrong with me, but something's actually wrong. So she's like, okay, make an appointment at Minute Clinic. So I'm like, I make an appointment at Minute Clinic, another Uber. I just feel like if you're not going to heal me, you shouldn't get my insurance money also. But anyway, I get in the Uber, I go to the CVS, I'm waiting, the person calls me in. First of all, she had an attitude. I hate people that always want to treat the people that they have to interact with at their job like they force them to come to work. So she called me in, and the first thing she does is like start asking me questions. So I'm explaining to her my symptoms. Then she takes this heart rate monitor and she puts it on my finger. And once she saw the number, she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so high. You should go to the emergency room." So don't ever tell a person that's worried about their health, "Oh, this is terrible." So now I'm scared. So I call my mom, like, "Mom, she just told me to go to Penn State hospital and blah 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 blah. Now I'm scared." She said my heart rate was super high. So I'm walking to the emergency room at the hospital, and they checked me in, and thankfully I came at a time where it wasn't crazy busy. The only other thing that was kind of wild that happened while I was in the waiting room was that another one of the patients urinated on themselves in the lobby. But that was pretty much the height of the chaos that ensued. So they checked me in, and the first thing that kind of threw me off was that because of my expression that I had shortness of breath and I was feeling like my airways were blocked, they had to check my heart. And so something that disturbed me about this encounter was that nobody warned me that I was about to be naked, at least on the top half. So they're taking my is it blood pressure or heart rate? I don't know the difference, but they put the thing around my arm, and then nobody warns me that I'm about to be naked on the top half. So the male nurse, who I don't think he was heterosexual. I don't think he, but it doesn't make it any less worse, but he I don't think he was attracted to women. But the male nurse pulls my shirt up, boom, like that. And I'm just looking around like, oh, so nobody was gonna say, hey, by the way, we're about to pull your shirt up. So I just give him this look like, oh, so that's what we on. And he goes, oh, I'm about to pull your shirt up. Babe, you're late. You're way too late. I'm already naked. So then he starts putting these little stickies all over my chest to try to see, what are the healthy heart, like what does a healthy heart do? They're trying to figure out if that's what my heart was doing. So after they figured out that my heart was fine, they made me sit back in the lobby, and then they say, "Hey, all of the rooms are filled, but you can be seen by a doctor if you're willing to get a bed and wait in the hallway." So they asked me, would you rather wait for a bed slash wait for a room, or be seen quicker and sit in the hallway? I was like, I'll wait for a room. Okay. So I wait for the room, and the doctor, no, the first thing they did was take me to a different part of the hospital so that I can get an x-ray, because I told the doctor, all of my symptoms. I just told her, like, it just feels like my airways are cut off. And she was asking me about my, like, if I had an active lifestyle, and I was like, yes, I'm a dance major. Like, I just went to dance, like, I pushed through yesterday because I had a dance rehearsal, but like it's really affecting my day-to-day life, because I feel like I can't eat. I feel like I'm scared to go to sleep because I don't want my heart to stop when I'm sleeping. And so she's like, okay, we're gonna give you, and this was honestly this is the only doctor, which, let me not, if I wanted to call out the white male doctor, this was a white female doctor. So they're not all bad, but this was one of the only doctors out of like 6 that I had seen in the past couple of weeks who actually, I felt like they were paying attention to me. So she's like, all right, well, let's get you a blood test. So I had to get my blood drawn, which I freaking hate. I hate getting my blood drawn. And 2, we're gonna get an x-ray. So they take me downstairs, and they gave me a little they were like, are you pregnant? I was like, no, I'm not pregnant. Because apparently you can't, I don't know if you can't get an x-ray while you're pregnant, but they gave me my little urine test, confirmed I wasn't pregnant, and then they gave me the x-ray. So they gave me the x-ray, and then they just told me they kept asking me to try to pee again. Like, why do y'all need my urine so much? I'm like, I'm trying to be careful, y'all, because why y'all need so much? So they're like, oh, if you can pee again, like, we'll really appreciate if you can try to go to the bathroom again. I'm like, babe, I only drank so much water today. I don't know if you're gonna be able to get that out of me, but it's kind of awkward that you need more when I kind of filled the first cup up past the fill to line. Like, I don't think I have any more for you. So we're gonna stop here, and then I'm gonna start a new video because my audio is about to turn off because I'm almost at the 30-minute mark. So I'm waiting for my results. And finally she comes up, and she was basically saying that my x-ray came back fine, and that they looked at my labs after they drew my blood, and the only thing that they found was that I was dehydrated and that I was anemic. That was what she said. So she also said, I think that you have GERD. So GERD stands for gastroesophageal reflux disease. So it's basically when your stomach doesn't have enough acid. So when you eat your food comes back up with your stomach acid, and the acid is what's causing this airways being cut off feeling. So it was a freaking relief after running around the whole city and going to four doctors, 4 or 5 doctors. It was a relief to find out that it was basically a very, very intense version of acid reflux. Like it was a relief. It was a relief. So that gives you a bit of backstory to my experience with doctors. So that's crazy because I'm just trying to give you guys backstory for what I'm about to tell you what occurred in the last 2 weeks. So back in July, the past couple of months have been very, very stressful for me. And it's crazy because I'm not going to say I know a lot of people, but a lot of people that know of me, um, at times I feel like their perception of me is that I talk too much or that I share too much on the internet. And it's crazy because I when I'm sharing something that's very vulnerable or something that I feel like other people in my life don't want me to share, it's a small fraction of what's actually going on because for the longest I wasn't even getting into the details of what I was dealing with in my living situation. I was just saying my roommate's having a very negative reaction to me setting boundaries. I didn't I didn't say, what the situation was over. I didn't say all of the very harmful things that were being said and done to me. I was talking about a very, very small fraction. And I feel like because a lot of people in my life are from an older generation where nobody really talked about the intimate details of their life, it was very much so, let's put on a show for the outside world. People feel like I'm oversharing. And the reality is, I'm always only sharing a small fraction of what's actually going on. So, yes, the past couple of months have been very stressful for me. And with my recent anxiety diagnosis, my my threshold for BS is very low. Let's just say that. Like, I don't have the capacity to deal with a lot of the stuff that people have made me feel like I need to deal with just because I'm in their presence. It ain't happening no more. I'm done with it. So, the last week of July, my anxiety and just my stress levels were very high. And it got to the point where I lost my appetite. So I talked to my therapist about it, and she said, yeah, I think you should go see a doctor. But due to my very, very horrible experience with doctors previously, and it didn't help that all of my experiences happened so closely together, I feel like that contributed negatively. So I was kind of like, so I lost my appetite, and then if you have a sensitive stomach, this might not be the episode for you, but I'm gonna get very transparent and very real, and I'm gonna try to not feel awkward or like ashamed of what was going on because this is the body's response to stress. So basically, I lost my appetite and I started having chronic diarrhea. So that meant that I would wake up with a stomach ache and I had to go to the bathroom in order for my stomach ache, which was anxiety. It was induced, the stomach ache was usually induced by my anxiety. And I didn't feel relief until I went to the bathroom. But the thing is, this went on, this chronic diarrhea every day, multiple times a day, it went on for 7 weeks before I saw a doctor because I kept saying, oh, okay, let me just see how this goes and maybe it'll start getting better. Like, I don't really know what's going on with me, but hopefully it resolves itself because one thing about it is I'm not going back to student health. Because honestly, the clinic on campus is where one of my most traumatic experiences with a doctor occurred. So I have to send a mental note to my brain to come back to my IBS. But the reason why it took me so long to go to the clinic on campus was because I didn't want to go to the clinic on campus. I wanted to wait till I was back home in my home. I can't even call it a state. I wanted to wait until I was back home so that I could go to a doctor that I was more comfortable with. And then also, I feel like it's different when you're going to a doctor by yourself versus with it doesn't have to be a parent, but just a person like an advocate. So, when I went to student health this one time, um it was after the situation where I had woke up in the middle of the night to pee 30 times. So I was having symptoms that were just making me like concerned. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go see what's going on. I'm not even gonna talk about all my symptoms because I could really just go on and on. But I was having issues and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. So I go, and one of the things that she said I was gonna have to do was take my pants off and get like a sample from my cervix. I think she wanted to get a sample from my cervix. So I think she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna I think it's called a speculum, but it's basically this little clear thing, and I don't really know what the purpose of the speculum is, because are you supposed to insert it vaginally and then pull it out and see what the text? I don't really know. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what was going on, but the way that she explained it to me was that, oh, it's not going to hurt that much. Just stay relaxed and it'll be fine. But as soon as she started to try to insert whatever object that she tried to insert, my whole body started tensing up and like rejecting the object. And she kept saying, just relax, you'll be fine. And I was like, no, it's hurting. Like, it got to the point where I was like tensing up. And so she pulls the tool out and she was like, okay, well, let me at least try to get a sample with a Q-tip. So she got the sample with the Q-tip. And then after that, she just had this annoyed energy. Like, she just had this aura of like annoyance, like annoyed that I was in pain. And so after she gets the sample with the Q-tip, she looks at me and she goes, "You can just pull your pants up." So at this point, I'm feeling bad because my body had a negative reaction to you inserting something into my body. Something that I can tell when things are a mental thing, and I can tell when things are a physical thing. And um I truly feel like I would have known if it was a mental thing. And it wasn't that, because when she started inserting it, it felt like everything in my body was like closing up. That's how it felt. So once she said, "You can just pull your pants up," I just felt really dismissed. Like, she never said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm hurting you. Oh, let's try to find a different angle." And it just was very scarring and very traumatizing. Um so back to my IBS. So diarrhea every day for 7 weeks. So from my when I immediately when I notice a change in my body, I start looking up the symptoms because I want to rule out very dangerous things that could kill me. Okay? I want to stay alive for at least a couple more years. So anytime something is happening to me, I start looking up the symptoms and try to see what's wrong. Due to my negative experiences with doctors in the past, I want to walk in and cancel out or rule out the thing that's scaring me the most. So when I walk into the doctor's office, I'm usually saying, hey, I looked up my symptoms already, and here's what I think it is. Can we rule out this because it's scaring me? So that's usually my way of taking control of my physical health, and knowing that doctors don't always have it 100% right. And so I talked to my mom about it, and I said, "Hey mom, I've been dealing with this for almost 2 months, and I haven't said anything because I don't want to go to the doctor on I don't want to go to the student clinic because they're not helpful." And she was just like, "Christian, like it's just more convenient for you to just do it now than us to wait." And so I was like, "Okay." So then she Oh my gosh. So then she offers to come from out of state to go to the appointment with me. And I really appreciated my mom for doing this because as a young black woman, like nobody really listens to us, and we know this, that nobody really cares about what we say, and they think that in the medical field they think we're just some like mute mystical creature that can endure all types of pain. And so I just didn't want to go to the clinic again without somebody that could advocate for me and say, she has been dealing with this for 7 weeks. Like, I'm not coming in here attempting to get medication. I'm not addicted to anything. I'm not trying to fake an illness so that I get medication. Like, that's not what this is. Like, I'm actually dealing with something. And I just know my body so well to the point where I can tell when things are off. So, oh my goodness. So, I go on the student clinic website, and I was explaining to my mom that I don't know if they have the proper equipment and testing at this facility for IBS, because at this point I've looked my symptoms up and I'm like, okay, it's looking like irritable bowel syndrome, and your mental health can trigger IBS. So I'm like, okay, it's been a really stressful time for me. Like, this is probably what's going on. So I called the clinic because before you make an appointment, they have to know what the appointment reason is. And so I called and I'm like, hey, do you guys do IBS testing? Or do you, oh no, I said, hey, do you guys do gastrointestinal testing? I'm not trying to have my tea out there. I don't need everybody to know that my stomach is upset all the time. That's you in my business. Why are you being nosy? Why are you being nosy? So I said, do you have gastrointestinal tests there? And she was like, she was very short with me. She was like, what's your problem? What do you think you have? I was like, I have chronic diarrhea. Since you're so pressed. Since you're so pressed. Like, I've literally been pooping nonstop every day for 7 weeks. That's what's been going on, babes. I'd like to see a doctor. So she's like, okay, I have an appointment for you at such and such time. Don't bring anybody to the appointment. So I just preface it and I just say, hey, my mom is most likely going to come to the appointment with me because of the negative experiences that I've had at this facility. Okay? So she's like, I guess that's okay. Yeah, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay this time. I'm going to have an escort with me just in case y'all try to play me again. So I get to my appointment. They call me back. And I was so glad that I didn't have the same doctor that we had the issue with, because that would have been very, like, you've already proven to me that you can't handle my body. So I'm not going to continue to go to you. So I was very glad that I got a different doctor. But then again, I knew this doctor was a white female. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm being prejudiced by mentioning the ethnicity, race, by mentioning the races of the doctors that I encountered, but it is helpful context because most of the doctors that were brought up in this Western field of medicine, they have internal biases against people of color. So it's not that I'm just trying to say, oh, it was a white doctor, by the way, but it holds context because they have internal biases going on. So she comes in and she asks me what's going on, and I explain my symptoms. And she's like, she asked me what my diet is like, and I said, oh, I'm mainly pescatarian. I occasionally, the only meat that I really eat is turkey bacon. Like, I don't really eat chicken like that. I don't really eat beef like that. I'm pretty much pescatarian. I drink a lot of smoothies, and I eat a lot of broccoli because, unfortunately, I'm in a food desert, and some of this produce that I see is just not up to par. And I'm not the type to buy produce when it's already going bad. Like, I need my produce to be in good condition. So the vegetable of choice that Christian is usually ingesting is broccoli. Okay? At least that's more than a lot of people can say. Okay? Because I know some people on that hot Cheeto and honey bun diet. Okay? Okay. So, she asked me about my diet. I explained it to her. And it's crazy because after I told her what my diet was like, she was like, what I think is going on, okay? Mind you haven't lived in my body for the past 7 weeks. So I'm telling you what I think it is. I'm like, yeah, I think it's IBS. She's like, so what I think is going on is that you're not getting enough foods with fiber in them in order to make I want another word I don't want to keep saying poop, but I don't know what other word to say. But basically she was saying, I feel like you're not eating enough fiber, so you don't have enough nutrients to make the poop solid. And I was like, that theory just doesn't make sense because all of this stomach issues happened at the end of July. I have not changed my diet at all. The only thing that I've done differently with my diet in the past year, meaning the last 12 months, was removing a lot of meat. So if that was the case and it was really about nutrition, the moment when I became semi-pescatarian, that's when the stomach issues would have started. So it's not making sense. Like, it's not making sense that, oh, you don't have enough fiber in your diet and it's making you have loose stool. There we go. There's another word for poop. So she was like, yeah, I just feel like it's your diet. And I was like, no, I don't think it's that. And so I think that doctors really aren't used to people saying, I don't think it's that. Because when I said, I don't think it's that, her face, the look on her face kind of was like, how dare you question me? And I was like, I don't think it's that because I haven't changed my diet. I think it's more emotional. And she's like, okay, well, let's have a blood test to make sure that you don't have celiac disease, which was something that I was considering. Once I looked up my symptoms, I was like, okay, maybe I am having like a gluten intolerance. And so she's like, I'm going to order a blood test so that we test your blood and we make sure that you don't have celiac disease, and we can also make sure that you don't have Crohn's disease or diabetes. So I'm like, okay. Also, that's pretty much all that happened at the first appointment. I also want to point out that when I told her that I had been having chronic diarrhea, she asked me, what is your definition of chronic? And I told her it's been almost 2 months. So then she says, well, it's not really considered chronic until the 2-month mark. So now I feel like I'm being medically gaslit because you're telling me, oh, it's been almost 2 months, but not quite 2 months, so you can relax. Like, if you're pooping multiple times a day, every day, and it's very liquidy, Why would I wait? Why would I say, oh, I'm at the 7 week mark? I'm not going to walk into the doctor's office until I'm at 2 months. I don't I don't know. Like at this point I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. I know I'm not crazy because this is not normal. So then for her to say, "Oh, we don't really take it seriously until about the 2 month mark, but I'm sitting here at the 7 week mark and you're not really giving me that energy. There's no sense of urgency." So that really confused me because she turns around and says, "Well, why did it take so long for you to seek care?" So on the one hand, it's not long enough. And on the other hand, why did it take you so long to come? And part of the reason why I started this podcast is because crazy stuff happens to me all the time. And I feel like people really think that I have some reason to lie. Like, everything I'm saying is all facts. I have nothing to gain. And if I didn't document these moments, like, I'm going to have proof of this happening to me as long as I live. I can come back to this video and say, "Christian, that was wild. Like, you really went through that?" Like, people are crazy. People is crazy. So I said, to be honest with you, I had an encounter with one of your colleagues that was very unpleasant. And I went to explain the whole situation with the speculum because I was watching another YouTuber's vlog that week and the term vaginismus came up. And so I was like, oh, I've heard that term before. I've heard that term before. It's so familiar. So I look it up. And basically, it is your body's reaction to something being vaginally inserted to the point where your body tenses up. So, doesn't that sound exactly like what happened to me at that first student clinic appointment? So now I'm figuring out that you're not crazy. That physical reaction, it wasn't a mental thing. Oh, she's sticking something in, it's gonna hurt. It wasn't that. It's literally my body's reaction to something being inserted. So I'm like, okay, so now I figured out that I most likely have vaginismus, which these medical things, they never stop with me. It's just one thing after the next, one thing after the next. So I said, yeah, I ran into your colleague at my last appointment and I had a very unpleasant experience and I didn't ever want to come back. So that's what happened. So then she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I know that probably wasn't her intention." And that's one phrase to get me pissed off. I don't care about what the person's intention was. I care about the aftermath of what I have to deal with as a result of the person's actions. Like, the last thing I want to hear after me being vulnerable with the person is, "Oh, I'm sure they didn't mean it that way. I'm sure it wasn't their intention." Well, it happened. It happened. It happened, and it definitely affected me. So then she asked me, "Do you have any history of SSA?" SA or not, I'm telling you, your partner, your colleague was rough. It has nothing to do with me having a history of SA. Like, I don't even know why that came up. If I'm telling you that if I'm telling you your colleague was rough, they were rough. Let's address that. Let's not worry about my background. Like, because now I'm being made to feel like, "Oh, you must have a history of SA because you're being dramatic." So yeah, not off to a good start, right? So she basically said, because you're not at the 2 month mark, um I'm going to get your blood drawn and then we'll have a follow up next week because it seems like you're worried about losing weight. Because I did express to her that the lack of appetite was really making me mad because I had, just gotten into this routine where I'm going to the gym 3 times a week, like I'm seeing my gains, and then all of a sudden, lost appetite. It's really not healthy to go to the gym when you haven't eaten enough to have energy for that workout. So with me barely having one meal a day, I had to stop going to the gym. So she said, okay, we're gonna schedule your follow up for a week and a half. So I get to my follow up. They check me in. I came like 30 minutes before my appointment. My appointment was at 11. It was either at 11 or 11:15. I came at like 10:45. So I wait. Okay, so as soon as I sat down in the waiting area, one of the nurses came back and got me. And they said, hey, Christian, we're ready for you. They bring you to the back. They check your blood pressure and they weigh you. And after that, they take you to the room to wait for the doctor. So they take me to the room to wait for the doctor, and they're like, okay, the doctor will be here to see you shortly. I'm sorry, y'all. I did not know that this episode was going to be over an hour, but I just have a lot on my chest to get off, so I'm going to just rock with it. So they take me to the doctor. No, they take me to the back room, and they say, okay, the doctor will be here to see you shortly. Why did I wait in that room for over 30 minutes? And nobody came to see me and say, hey, it's going to be a little bit later than we thought. Because my opinion, I was like, okay, I'm here early. My appointment technically wasn't supposed to start until 11:15. So if you're not in here by 11:15, that's fine. But it got to the point where it passed my appointment time, and I'm like, nobody has come in to give me an update. Like, I kind of find that problematic. If you bring me into a room and say the doctor will be here to see you shortly, and then 30 to 40 minutes pass with no communication. So I was just in there meditating. I was meditating. I was doing my breathing exercises because I just knew that there was going to be something that this doctor was going to come in and say to me that was going to grind my gears and make me despise doctors even more. And when I say despise doctors even more, let me say Western medicine, like Western doctors that don't really too much care about holistic healing. Okay, their solution to everything is to take a couple pills. So she comes in and she says, hi, Christian, what are you here for today? So this made me mad because after almost 40 minutes of sitting in here, I would at least think that you would have the common courtesy to review your notes so that you're not coming in here asking a patient that's here for a follow-up appointment why they're there. Okay? So I say, I'm here for a follow-up. And she's like, okay, let me check my notes. So she's like, okay, so how has it been? I was like, it's been a little bit better. I would say 5 out of 7 days I had regular bowel movements, and 2 out of 7 days I had loose stool. So then she's like, oh yeah, I looked at your labs, everything came back fine. The only thing is, you're a little anemic. Have you ever heard that before? I was like, yeah, I've heard that before. When I went to Penn State, they told me that I was anemic. And she's like, okay, well, for this, I would say, we would like to start you on iron supplements. And to be honest, she was just like, there's a lot of side effects that come along with the iron supplements, such as constipation. So now I'm confused because I just asked her, because, I came in here for gastrointestinal issues. So I asked her, so are the iron supplements going to help take my loose stool to hard stool, or is it going to make me constipated? And she was like, well, no, the iron pills are not related to your GI issues at all. That's just for your anemia. And now it's making me mad because the thing that I came for, we are not addressing. And it just makes me cringe because I feel like you're going around the world just to not address my issue. And the fact that doctors still get to snatch your insurance money even if they don't solve the problem, I think that's ultra problematic. So, after I asked her the question about the iron supplements, she's like, "Okay, well, if you're looking for something for your I'm sorry, that was kind of rude. She was like, if you're looking for something to help with your GI symptoms, I would recommend this vitamin called Align." And I'm like, I've definitely heard of it. I've definitely seen a couple commercials on it, but I definitely haven't taken it because there hasn't really been a reason to take it. So she's like, yeah, there's this supplement. I mean, yeah, there's this vitamin called Align. You can get it over the counter. You don't need a prescription, blah, 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 blah. And still, yet, I'm just like, but where's the, oh, you told me you've been under, a lot of stress lately. I want to educate you on the fact that IBS is triggered by your mental health. So, what's been going on with your mental health? I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard any questions about, oh, why are you so stressed? Let's try to think about ways to lower your stress levels. The only thing that I heard from her was she asked me, because I told her, I had been under a lot of stress. The only question she asked me was, oh, so are you seeing someone about your mental health issues? And I just felt like there's a stigma around mental health that it just, I don't know, because she never really asked me. I feel like me, I definitely probably wouldn't have told her that I just got diagnosed with anxiety because I feel like that would have made the medical gaslighting even worse. But I still think that at least me telling her, oh, I've been anxious in the past, that would have been the perfect opportunity for her to educate me on the fact that, but because I do my own research, I take my health concerns into my own hands and I do my own research, I knew that anxiety and depression and a lot of other mental health concerns can affect your body physically. But she was just not asking me any type of questions that would take us down that path. So then this is where it gets me really upset. And I only have 4 more minutes. But she says, so due to your anemia, and you told me that you're pescatarian, so you're not eating much meat, I would say a solution for that would be to put you on birth control. And this, you continuously want to take a pill, medication. I don't need to be on birth control because I'm anemic. Are you actually okay in the head? I have too many people that I know of that have come to me and expressed how birth control has negatively affected their bodies. Whether it's the side effects, whether it's the hormones, whether it's the appetite. I would never willingly put myself on birth control because of my anemia. If anything, I'll just eat some meat. I'll eat some meat before because I'm not eating meat out of recreational purpose. It's not because I'm like in a religion that prevents me from eating it. I'd rather eat a piece of steak. I'd rather eat a steak than be on birth control. So, um yeah. Yeah. She just was very okay, let's slap this on it, let's slap that on it. So yeah, then she kept asking me, do you want to meet with the nutritionist? And I just told her, no, I don't want to meet with the nutritionist because my diet has not changed in the past year. So everything I'm dealing with is mental, it's like emotional, it's like stress. And so then I told her that I had been having I have very heavy periods. Oh, that's why because when I told her that I had heavy periods, she was like, yeah, it sounds like that's contributing to your anemia, like your heavy periods are contributing to it. And so the birth control would like help with you to stop bleeding. No, you're not going to get me like that. I know that I want to have kids in the future. So you're not about to mess, as much as y'all want to say, oh, birth control doesn't mess up your fertility. Uh, uh. No, you got the wrong one. So, yeah, it's pretty much time for me to leave this booth. Um, that was a very much needed vent session on what I've been dealing with the past couple of months. And I just want to encourage anybody that's going through a medical concern to advocate for yourself. Look up your symptoms. Oh, that's what I was going to say. When I told the doctor, "Oh yeah, I have really heavy periods. I think I have something else going on." Like the issues with me never stop, but I was just saying like, yeah, I think I have other things going on. She was like, "Oh, well, what did you look up? What, according to your research, what do you think it is?" Like, I just don't understand why you're getting offended at the fact that I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with me. I'm just trying to figure out what's wrong with me. But I say all that to say, if you're going through anything, especially if you are a person of color, but more specifically a black woman, you're not crazy. You know your body the best. This doctor that you're going to see for an hour does not live internally in your body. They do not know what you go through. They do not know what you experience. They do not know what your normal is. So if you feel like something is off, it most likely is. So follow your intuition and find a doctor that has the same mindset as you and one that is willing to get to the root of the problem and doesn't want to slap a band-aid on everything, which is crazy because I didn't really care about the diarrhea. I just wanted to be able to eat. I love food. I'm a Taurus. I love food. But I could not eat. I would put something in my mouth, chew it, and be like, I'm full. And that's a problem for me. So when I talked to the doctor about it and was like, hey, I don't really care about anything that's going on. I just want to have an appetite again. Do you have anything that can stimulate my appetite? She goes, uh, actually, I don't really want to just give you something to stimulate your appetite. That's kind of like not addressing the real issue. Oh, so we do hypocrisy. We do talking out both sides of our mouth. So, yeah. So I don't really mess with doctors. And I have exhibit A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P reasons why I don't mess with them. So, yeah, like I said, if you feel like something's wrong, it probably is. Don't let anybody tell you that something is not wrong because something that's very scary that can occur is that a person says something is wrong, something is wrong, something is wrong, and the doctors aren't finding anything because they have to realize that everything is not going to come up on a lab. Everything is not going to come up on your lab report. There's things that might be going on internally that you cannot find on a test. And so some people have caught their cancer or felt the symptoms of very serious fatal illnesses. I'm about to sneeze. See? That's how well I know my body. I knew I was about to sneeze like 5 seconds before. And I'm about to excuse me. But people catch their fatal illnesses in the early stages and then they go to doctors that say nothing's wrong with you. So they dismiss what they know internally and they gaslight themselves. So I just want to encourage anybody that's dealing with anything in the medical field that if you feel like something is wrong, even if you don't have tangible proof yet, you're probably not crazy. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast episode. A lot was said, and I appreciate having this platform and this ability to talk about this topic. And yeah, Yeah, I don't really know what to say because I just feel like I expose myself, but I feel like somebody else is going to benefit from my very embarrassing stories. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and you'll hear me when you hear me.